So we're recording now. Okay, cool. Um, Hi, I'm Jade. I'll be interviewing you today. I'd like to thank you for coming in. Yeah, let's just get started.
Perfect.
So the position is Chief Impact Officer. And yeah, let's just get going. Can you just tell me a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so my name is Rocky. I'm in my last semester at UFV, finishing off my Bachelor of Integrated Studies degree with an extended minor in geography. So with that, I have an amalgamation of a whole variety of social sciences, but I'm focusing on geography, the physical aspect, cultural aspect, and GIS remote sensing aspect. Prior to coming back to finishing my degree, I was a project manager for a landscaping company where I started at the bottom as a general laborer and worked my way up to the project manager. During that time, we went through a successful company expansion where I got to learn a bunch of leadership skills, and it was a very good experience. The Chief Impact Officer position is a very unique opportunity for me that would allow me to go and utilize my previous experience as a manager in correlation with my university education, which I'm really excited to do that.
Awesome. Well, I guess you kind of touched on it a bit, but could you tell me a little bit about the skills that make you qualified for this position?
Sure. So to start off, my project managing skills, I had to master time management. That was a big one. Collaborative teamwork, as in working as part of a team and not necessarily being the boss, just delegating orders, effective teamwork that really got us to where we were before I left to come back to school. I feel that my cultural geography aspect, especially with collaborative work through different stakeholder groups or communities, is a big skill. And it's working with others as a team and not coming in saying, oh, my geography background is this is the answer for it. No, that's not necessarily traditional ecological knowledge. And that's based off of indigenous teachings. And it's actually being used for sustainable management purposes and policy formations around the world because it's more effective than Western knowledge. Yeah.
Great, thank you. So we're looking for someone to work closely with the CEO of the company, just to make sure that the project can continue to run smoothly. So this would kind of entail action items like allocating resources, setting priorities, and career development. If we were to hire you, how would you ensure the needs of the project were being met?
So much of it would be based off of my prior project managing skills because I had to do that on a daily basis. Um, Especially allocating resources, I just have to make a list, set priorities as to what needs to be where, depending on the situation. I'd also have to see what what the community needs at that time, right? If we have an excess of something over here, I'd bring it in. But the biggest thing would be time management and have proper lists made and tables to see where things are and where things need to be.
Right, great. So, sorry, this position is located in Vancouver, but will require you to travel throughout Canada. Are you comfortable with traveling for more than a week at a time?
Yes, I could travel for more than a week at a time.
Okay, and how many days a month would you be willing to travel?
Um, I'd be willing to travel between 14 and 21 days as long as afterwards I got to spend adequate time with my family because my family is a huge priority with my life as well. So as long as I got that time afterwards, that wouldn't be an issue at all.
Of course. Um, Tell me about a time when you had to take lead on a project and things went poorly. How did you handle that?
So it was actually about, I'd say almost a year ago today, right as I was transitioning from leaving the landscape company to go come back to school. We had a bunch of projects on the go where during the stratas we were top seeding grass and doing bark mulch installations. So these are big properties, like 60 to 100 unit places. So they're pretty big. And this is right when COVID took off last year. So a whole bunch of companies were kind of shutting down and people weren't coming to work. So essentially, what happened was we had a scheduled delivery of 10 yards of bark mulch to one site and a bunch of soil to another site. These got mixed up, the days got switched around. So I had the majority of my crew at the one site expecting the mass delivery, which didn't show. And the big delivery came to another site where I had a skeleton crew that day. So essentially, what I did was I just sat down, just collected my thoughts because my phone was ringing off the hook. People were panicking. And I just regathered my crew and set them up to the site where the delivery was made. And we just switched around our timetable for the week. And I contacted the Strata Council and explained to them what happened and said it was out of our control. It was the companies where we were acquiring these materials for doing your projects. And because of COVID, stuff just it is what it is, and it worked out, and we ended up finishing right on schedule. So it just took a minute to calm down, collect my thoughts, and make an effective plan, and it worked out.
Oh, good. That's good to hear.
Thanks.
Um, so, as you may know, EcoTrust is committed to helping Indigenous communities create sustainable living conditions that will help to bring the cost of living down. If you were to work within these communities, how would you ensure you're being mindful and respectful of their everyday challenges?
Well, I think you said it in the question was to work within these communities and be a part of. You know, a lot of the issues historically within geography is the whole westernization aspect of thinking that our academic knowledge is superior to elsewhere,
Mhm.
especially when talking with indigenous communities or working with them. And that's not the case. I'm there to work with them to build up a sustainable future that will benefit their community as well as myself. So the biggest thing would be to be a part of, and a lot of that comes down to my values, my core values. Growing up as a kid, and even today, I spend a lot of my time fishing and hunting. And one of my best friends from high school is Indigenous, and he was from the Sartlip Nation in Victoria. So we would spend, I'd go over to his house for dinner, and we would go fishing and talk about hunting. And it comes down to my values align with that, even though I'm not Indigenous myself.
Mhm.
So that is how I would be mindful and respectful of their challenges, because I understand what has happened to them and through colonization, and I'm not here to compound that problem at all. I like to do my part to get them out of
Of
that
course.
situation. Yeah.
Great. Okay, well, thank you. That's all the questions I have for you. But do you have any questions for us?
Yeah, sure. So my first question here is, what was the catalyst that founded EcoTrust and essentially started the organization?
Well, you know what? My buddy and I were walking around and we noticed that we needed to trust in each other more. So we created EcoTrust.
Nice.
Mhm.
Nice. Okay, and my second question is, what is the biggest challenge to achieve and maintain a sustainable economy from your perspective?
Colonization, 100% colonization. With working with these indigenous communities, we started to realize that they really have a great understanding of how things should work and how it should go, and we're just trying to support them in getting back to how they view the ecosystem.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you for your time. It's been a pleasure.
Awesome. Thank you. We'll get back to you within the week, but you got the job. Congratulations.
Awesome. Thanks.
And then, oh, I guess we'll just move to the next one.
Perfect.
Okay.
So, my name is Brock, and I'm here to interview you on your board representation position. So, Jade, are you ready?
I am.
Okay, so could you tell me a little bit about yourself?
Okay, so my name is Jade. I am in my last semester of my political sciences and Indigenous studies degree at UFB. I'm currently applying to the Masters of Education program at Thompson River University in Kamloops.
Nice.
I'm really hopeful to get in there and get going on my educational journey and continue to learn and grow as a person. I'm a Stalo member, so I'm registered to Skokale through my mom, but my dad is from Cham, so I kind of get a little bit of both reserves, which is really cool. I grew up in Stalo territory, which I think is super important for this position, just because it's really hard to follow cultural teachings and cultural aspects in a colonized world where I'm going to school learning about Indigenous cultures, but I really want to get hands on, which is why I think this position would be great because it would be a really cool experience to further my education and support Indigenous peoples.
Awesome. Awesome. Okay, what compelled you to apply for this position?
I think for sure growing up on reserve has given me a really interesting um, aspect to governance and to what a board of directors is. So we have a board of directors here at Skokale, and I was on the youth committee actually, so we got to work with the board of directors. And our board of directors was really just kind of an honorarium taking group that didn't really support anything that our community wanted. They didn't listen, they didn't do much. And so I really want to get on a board of directors so I can make a difference. So I can do something for people that need something, so I can listen to community members and reciprocate what they're asking for and hopefully make the future better for Indigenous peoples.
Nice. That's pretty cool. Um, so tell me about a time when you demonstrated leadership skills to navigate an adverse situation.
Right. Okay, so this would probably be I'm currently on a research project with STSA, the South Stomach Stewardship Alliance. And I'm a research assistant there. And basically, what we're working on is the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples was turned into an act provincially, so DRIPA, and we have to meet with provincial representatives all the time. And we usually go with questions that we have for them. And as the lead researcher for the project, I have to present them. And often the provincial representatives will just decline our questions. We'll ask them something about what the implementation will look like, and they'll just say, "Oh well," and they'll beat around the bush and they won't answer it. So a really good skill I picked up is redirecting them back to my main question. So if I'm asking about implementation and they're beating around the bush, to just say, "Okay, well, thank you, but what about implementation?" And just really almost hounding them until they answer the question, because that seems to be the only way to get things done. And it's definitely been a really great skill to have.
Wow, nice. Okay, so tell me about a time when you've shown the ability to influence and achieve a consensus when impartiality was expressed by others.
Okay, again, back to my STSA work and my research assistant work, and um, which I guess it's a research assistant title, but I'm the only researcher, so I don't really assist anybody, which is odd. But um, we have 15 bands who come together and meet every month um, to try to determine how we can build a governing structure that supports all of the community's needs. And as the only researcher on the committee, on the board, um, things often get delegated to me. Things often, if there's a disagreement, people will send it to me and they'll say, "Hey, work this out." So one of our more recent ones has been with funding. So we have small bands that have 42 members who want equal funding to go to them as bands that have 300 members, which really just doesn't make sense. So one of our biggest problems has been trying to communicate with bands that have 42 members and say, "Hey, that isn't how we're going to do things, but we want to listen to what you need. We don't want to listen to what you want. We want to listen to what are the needs of your people." and bring that back and talk to the bands that have 300 members and see how those bands can um, almost align what they need together. So instead of having 342, we have 342. So instead of having two separate groups, we're really working towards unity and connectiveness and being a whole. And I think that's really come from, well, a lot of challenges. There's obviously a lot of challenges within this field, but yeah, so I think
Awesome. What personal weakness will limit your ability to do your best at this position if you get it?
my age for sure. I think I'm 21, so I'm young, I'm inexperienced. Um, I really only had 2 research positions within this field, but I don't think that should be a limiting factor in my capabilities to be a good board member. I think the fact that I'm younger, the fact that I'm part of the newer generation will will open up the board to looking at different things. Because what I've noticed about politics is a lot of people get caught in this same flow of things. They get caught in one track, yes or no, black and white, and that's sorry, just popped up on my screen. Um, and I think being young will open them up to other options. Will open them up to listening to more people, and as well as being a female, our board of directors is typically male. So being a young, aspiring female who is pretty hard-headed will, I think, really change their perspective
Awesome. That's great to hear. Next question. So based on the personal qualities, skills, and experiences of the board representative requirements of the job posting, why are you the best candidate for this position?
I think again, as mentioned, it is a weakness, but it's also a strength. Is my age and my inexperience, and um, I haven't been tampered by the cloud of negativity that comes with politics. I still have a very open heart. I still have a very positive attitude. I really want to make a change, and I just think that that's something they need. That I think the board needs that. They need somebody that's fresh. They need somebody that's willing to do the gross work, do the go to the communities, listen to what the communities have to say, because nobody wants to listen to complaining, but I do. I want to listen to what the people have to say. I want to work through it as a group. I want to progress forwards, and I think that comes from being young, and that comes from um, not being stomped on like a lot of these board reps have been. And I've talked to a few of them before, and a lot of the things that they say is, "Oh, well, back in my day, I didn't have anybody to support me through my education. Back in my day, I didn't have support. Back in my day, I couldn't even get education." So I think the fact that I have support from education, I have support for the position, just is such a great thing, and it'll give me a little bit of a head start in the game, I think.
Awesome. Well, that's awesome that you nailed those questions. So my final question for you is, do you have any questions for me?
I do actually. I have a couple.
Okay.
If I was to get selected for this position, what are a few of the requirements that you guys would be looking for as like in respects to my contribution, really? What would you be looking for?
That's a very good question. What's your second question? We'll just
My
jump right to that one. Yeah.
my second question,
Yeah.
um, if what's the time requirement for this position? Because I know it says that we're supposed to meet every or 6 times a year. But what does that look like around that? Is there little meetings in between? Is there communications in between, or is it just those 6 meetings?
That's perfect. I'll just say that you got the job for sure. And those questions were very in-depth and complex. So why don't we go get a coffee sometimes next week and I can actually provide you with an adequate answer.
Great, thank you.
Awesome. Thanks for coming.
Great.